Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, my fellow YouTubers, Facebookians. I think the camera's just a little, there we go. Welcome to another edition of Living Simply and Fun. I'm your host, Aries, aka Rita. That's Aaron, who's doing stupid things like bunny ears.
Pushing you out of the picture.
Well, if you want, I'll just go make some more coffee since you want me out of the picture.
I didn't say that. First thing I'll add is, yes, I have the same shirt she has. I bought mine first. She liked it, so I ended up buying her a copy, too. I try never to wear it at the same time she's wearing hers, though. I'm just
wearing a plain white t-shirt today because it was simple. I was trying to find the what do you call it? The pink t-shirt that he gave me about the 12th man for the Sea Chickens.
Yes.
The Seahawks.
So, the last couple days, we've been watching movies. We've decided to try to make Saturday like a movie day because we don't want to work that day.
It's our day of rest.
Like the Sabbath, whatever.
Sabbath or
Probably
Sabbath.
shouldn't be done for play either, but I figured it'd be a good time to teach Rita a few things. So yesterday we ended up watching Gandhi, and she didn't know much about Gandhi, so now she knows more about his life.
I've done a lot of research on Gandhi off and on with
Since
Wikipedia,
then.
yes.
And today we watched Amadeus.
Which is the Mozart movie.
Yes, she's watched quite a few movies recently to kind of enlighten her or bring her knowledge that she didn't have. There are some other movies that I want to watch with her in the future. Maybe we can watch Impromptu sometime, which is a movie about George Sand and Chopin. You've never seen it.
Is that
it's one
on
of my favorite.
Amazon Prime?
It might be. I don't know. I own it. So, and then I also have Sylvia, which is the story of Sylvia Plath. And again, we might watch that one together sometime. There's just a lot of movies out there. There's some that I want to get, like Renoir. Which I found out just was made in 2012. There was a movie about Tchaikovsky I want, and another one I want to get about, what was her name? I'm drawing a blank. Dorothy Parker, in The Vicious Circle, which was a very good movie. Road to Wellville, which was about the Kellogg Corporation, which was a good movie too. There's just tons of movies. In fact, I just found one that I really want to see. It's called Vincent, I believe. It's about Vincent van Gogh, and it's starring Leonard Nimoy in the role of, like, everybody. So, it's like a one-man show with Leonard Nimoy. I think it could be quite interesting to watch. So, that's kind of what we've been doing, and because we've been doing that, Rita was thinking about refined tastes or being mildly sophisticated, because now she's got an interest in opera after watching Amadeus. And opera's a good thing, and I've been wanting to get a copy of Tosca as well. And there's other well-known plays and stuff that maybe she should watch, like Tennessee Williams' Fiddler on the Roof, etc. I think he was Cat on a Hot Tin Roof. Fiddler on the Roof, I can't remember who did it, but again, that's a play that she should probably watch.
Is that a movie, you mean?
Yes, they've made movies out of it. Might want to get her into some Shakespearean stuff too, like Romeo and Juliet, etc., or Hamlet. Things that people refer to quite frequently, and if you don't know them, you're kind of out of the loop of it too. So, I found The Last Emperor also recently on Amazon Prime. I've talked to her about watching Soylent Green. But when she was talking about the refinement, she was also talking about, like, cigars and stuff. You don't have to be rich to enjoy cigars. There are some cigars that are cheap, and actually you appreciate them more if you can't afford them that much. So, in some ways, a person can be a better aficionado of cigars smoking fewer of them and less frequently than somebody who smokes them all the time. But that could be arguable. It's a different form of knowledge of them, though. You know, somebody who smokes them all the time might notice the slight differences between this one and that one.
Fiddler on the Roof, it says Chaim Topol, Norman Crane, Leonard Frey, Molly Picon, and Paul Mann for Fiddler on the Roof, the movie.
Yes, but that's basically like who directed it and stuff.
But no,
I don't know who actually wrote it.
Jewish, and they're Joseph Stein by screenplay, based on Tever and His Daughters by Sholem Elishim.
Yes.
So Fiddler on the Roof. Sorry about this, everyone.
That's a very well-known story, though. But as I was saying, a person who smokes very few cigars appreciates the cigar in some ways more, but the person who smokes them more might notice the small changes. Same with scotches, and you could drink cheap scotch, you could drink cheap booze, you could drink cheap wines. There are a lot of good wines out there at affordable prices. You do not have to be like, oh yes, this is a $10,000 bottle of wine. You could drink a $7 bottle of wine and get as much appreciation out of it. I really don't understand these people that say, well, you're not a real wine drinker if you've never drank a $10,000
I had a guy, and I
bottle
want
of
to tell a
wine.
story about this. This guy supposedly said, and to me and Aaron, to this girl, and to that boy there, now, we weren't really, and I'm going to get it while Aaron's talking for them, but this guy said, and I quote, "This brandy isn't really brandy because apparently the jackwagon's got to pay $4,000 a bottle, which he really doesn't have." Or, this wine, for example, which
Isn't a real wine.
isn't a real wine because
And that
there's
is
no
a
cork.
darn good wine. In fact, there's no cork in this wine because it's from a manufacturer who's just getting his start, and he's got very small batches that come out, and he sends his barrels to somebody else who bottles them cheaply and ships them out to get him a start. The wine could actually be better than what you're used to getting.
I find
even
this,
at expensive prices, because this is a guy who's got his start. He is new.
And from France. And you know what? I've only looked for that particular wine, and there's only 3 people in the world that make that type of wine. You would never even hear the name of this. Instead, some wines are Cabernet Sauvignons or Sauvignon Blanc, whereas this stuff here has got a unique name. But let me tell you, this guy here, and I'm going to be telling on myself, when it comes to Thanksgiving, I didn't give him one stinking drop. It was my wine. He wasn't getting it.
I didn't ask for any, though. I tried it. I really liked it. I didn't need to try
And
it
he
again.
tried, like, with me present in the last few months, he tried over 24 wines with me.
Exactly.
And
I'm
this
not a
stuff
drinker.
Here, and this
so
stuff here was really good.
I
out of
will
it all.
try it because I want to know how it is and say, hey, I really like that one. I'd like to keep a bottle on hand for a special occasion.
Well,
This was one I would have kept a bottle on hand for a special occasion, but I also know here that Rita would end up drinking it before
but
it gets to that occasion.
I got a case of it.
And
for
because
Christmas
it doesn't
and
have a
New
cork,
Year's.
I don't think it's worth saving because there is no cork, and I'm not going to try to squeeze a cork in there because technically it's open already.
Yes, but as he said, the certain things refine taste. Like another thing is
Well,
music.
it's like those bottles. Most people are familiar with the music of Rush. When I was growing up, I wanted to go to a Rush concert, but I found out that the tickets in my area were $150 a ticket. No way I was going to go to that. But had you become a fan of Rush at the very beginning of their career, you probably could have gotten into a place free or for $2.50, $3 that was having a Rush concert. Because they were just a small, unknown band at the time. Well, these are small, unknown wines right now. But they could end up being the next Dom Perignon, whatever.
Don Perignon champagne, but still.
And of
you
course,
get
it's
the
not a
point.
champagne, but it could end up being a top shelf wine one day. So, yes, Naked Wines has some good deals on that stuff. As I was trying to say, though, there is a way that anybody can essentially raise their cultural level and be more of an intellectual, be more of a sophisticated. You can enjoy art without being able to go to the art museums. We live nowhere near an art museum, but I'm always introducing Rita to new art like Monet and Van Gogh and stuff that she's never seen.
There's a story I have to tell you. My former apartment managers were Jehovah's Witnesses, and I used to make a joke about this giant painting in their office. I said, that would look good in my apartment. Well, when they were leaving, the day they were leaving, they gave it to me. Well, for my birthday, Aaron stumbled across the guy's second painting.
Yes, so now Rita is the proud owner of 2 paintings, and I think the guy's name was Robert Wood.
Robert Wood.
It was
right.
a painter I didn't know much about at the time, and now I've seen a lot of his work, and it was actually very popular to be sold for a long time. Now it's rather difficult to find some of his work, and even harder to find a lot of information about him. But at one point, he was like Ansel Adams and various other artists whose artwork was gracing like hospitals, and you'd walk in down the hall in some building and there'd be a painting on the wall. It would probably be one of his. He did a lot of artwork like that.
Well, for example,
a lot of reprint work.
For example, another thing that I'm into is, and it's like a refined taste in some ways, is fishing. And, Aaron got me a lot of fishing magazines from like 1950s and 60s, and they've been very educational.
Or music. You don't have to be able to go to a concert hall or a symphony orchestra to appreciate classical music. You can actually listen at home and say, wow, that was amazing. You don't have to have some guy rapping in your ear constantly. Really, a lot of our modern music, it's in 4-minute shorts because people don't want to hear more than that. But I actually am one who appreciates 25 minutes or an hour of very complicated pieces stuck together.
Well, I want to say a story also, since this is about refined taste. There was a woman that we know here in town, and she doesn't know our YouTube channel, so it doesn't matter. But Aaron used to, before it got a little bit of hassle, he used to go out every morning and every evening. He'd post something on my Facebook wall at the time of music and art. And I'd sit there, and one day she said, I think it was in a post to everyone who saw it, that a person like me, being transgendered, had no refined taste.
And didn't need to know any of that stuff.
Yes.
I'm sorry, everybody should. In fact, I don't see why classical music isn't taught in school. In fact, when I was going to school, we were actually already getting away from teaching classical music. It started to become more hip-hop, jazz, rock. My teachers during my 5th grade year were talking about classical music, but by the time I got to my 8th grade year, they were talking about Vanilla Ice and MC Hammer. I'm sorry, but those were not the type of music that should have been taught in school. Especially at that time, it was modern music. You could turn on the radio and listen to modern music. And
I never knew
somewhere
anything
in between,
about classical.
they started going to like the oldies, like Tommy James and the Shondells and stuff. But again, that really wasn't the type of stuff we needed to learn in music class. That should have been classical composition.
I learned earlier when I first got my computers with Windows ME and XP and etc. Windows 98 had it as well. They threw in a thing where you could sit there, and if you went into the Windows Media Program, they had like certain musics of Mozart, Bach, and Beethoven. And I used to like it because it was just so nice, but I never knew at the time until Aaron said, hey, and then when he got me into it, it's really relaxing. I mean, I like.
Neither of us are to the point that we could turn on the radio and listen to a small section of a piece and say, "Oh, that's Mendelssohn. He wrote that when he was about 7 or 8 years old," or "That's Carl Orff."
Like tonight,
we actually have to be looking at the title and say, "Oh, that's Carl
Orff." Like tonight, Aaron and I were talking off and on. I'd pause it and I'd read him something about Mozart's life or his wife, or he even asked about the emperor, and he's like, "Emperor." Well, we found out it was the Holy Roman Emperor.
And I asked her to look it up because he referred to his sister as Antoinette. And I said, that's not Marie Antoinette, is it? And, well, lo and behold, it was Marie Antoinette.
Anyways,
and I didn't know that she was related to the Emperor of Austria.
Like, for example, the Emperor of Austria was the Holy Roman Emperor.
Yes, the Emperor of, what was it again?
Vienna.
Vienna.
But Vienna is where the home of the Holy Roman Empire was, if you didn't know. Anyways, the other thing he asked me, and I think he was kind of shocked tonight, his mouth was kind of open, was when we were talking about, not much, but I brought up a box set. We were talking about classical
Franz
composer Liszt. And I said, a Liszt is $1,000. He's like,
yeah, because Franz Liszt is like one of my favorite musicians of all time. I love everything I've ever heard from Franz Liszt, and to have his entire collection of works on box set, the man literally wrote like 400 or 500 pieces or more that were 20 minutes to an hour long. That is a lot of music, and I'd love to hear it all.
You can get the complete box of like Beethoven for $120, but Franz Liszt,
I wouldn't actually say it's complete either. More than likely, it's the best known pieces all stuck in one box together. for some of these people. Chopin is my second favorite, which he was friends with Franz Liszt, so goes to figure. But anyways, that's pretty much it. We just wanted to kind of say what we're doing right now is a lot of educational movies and learning things about the past that we may or may not have known. I've known them, but and how a person can actually kind of enjoy the sophisticated things in life and not necessarily be a rich person. You do not have to be rich to enjoy certain things. Yeah, it does require a bit of money. You might need a computer so that you could actually get online and look things up on YouTube and Wikipedia and various other places. You might have to have some money to watch movies or rent them. So that would probably mean a TV. Buying cigars, even if it's $20 worth a month or $10 a month, or a bottle of wine now and then, it can actually cost some money, but it's less than like $50 to $100 a year or a month to enjoy that. So if you can actually spare that, there's more benefit to that than necessarily going to a baseball game or buying a $200 shirt or a $300 pair of pants or getting yourself an iPad or an iPod, although you can use those things to learn. So many people do not use them for those purposes, and I don't know. I don't understand why a person would not want to learn more instead of just... I look at all sorts of uneducated people. Like, just yesterday, I read a report about a Chinese wood carver who cut down a tree and carved the wood into an ancient Chinese scene that was painted on a scroll.
1,400 feet long. 40 feet long.
In intricate detail. It was probably about 40 feet long.
That's what it said.
But reading the comments from people was like, what a shame that he cut down a tree for something so insignificant as this. This man should be burned at the stake. Blah, blah, blah. All sorts of people were sitting there bashing him for cutting down a tree. My God. Our houses are almost all made of wood. There were people who were talking about printing one out on a 3D printer because it wouldn't have taken as much wood. I am sorry. This man did something extremely talented that no one has done, and in such detail it puts a lot of carvers to shame, and all people can say is, well, he cut down a tree. Save the trees! Save the trees! You know what? He used the tree for a better purpose than turning it into notebook paper. I'm sorry, this is not as impressive as what he did. Yet, this probably took as much tree or more than what he did. Our desks are made out of wood. Our houses are made out of wood. Do you live in a plastic metal house? No. Is your apartment plastic and metal? No. Do you live in a tent? Well, then maybe. But if you live in a tent, what are you cooking on? But burning wood? So, to say something like that, it was just idiotic and just stupid. And it shows how moronic people are. If only they'd educate themselves a bit more. And these are 30, 40-year-old people that are saying things like this, and these people should have been better educated from the time that they were kids. This world is going to hell real fast because we do not learn things. We do not educate ourselves anymore. We do not care to know certain things, and we believe the bullcrap that is shoveled down our throats. So, yes, this world is falling apart rapidly, and maybe just a little more culture in our lives might be something we all need. Maybe learning something on family movie night would be a lot better than sitting around watching Family Guy, which teaches absolutely nothing. It doesn't even teach moral values. If anything, it blows moral values out of the water and tells you who gives a damn. So, and I'm sorry for fans of Family Guy. They do sometimes run some morals, but they go over people's heads.
I'm sorry also because my facts were wrong. It wasn't Liszt, though. It was expensive.
Oh.
It was Vladimir Horowitz.
Ah, yes. I remember that.
The complete one for almost
now,
$1,400.
That's different, though, because Vladimir Horowitz, unlike Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart or Franz Liszt, he wasn't necessarily a composer. He did, but a lot of his things were performances of those people's work. So there could literally be tons of music on there from Mendelssohn and Mozart, Beethoven, Bach, everything. So
70 CDs.
That I could believe. That I could believe. And that's probably his private individual CDs.
It says his entire discography is available on this box set. So all of his works that he did, even if it's someone else's that he, you know.
We should probably cut this, but do remember in the future, if you can, always try to learn something every day, no matter what it is. Spend your time trying to learn, whether it's reading books or watching movies. It's much better to do that in your spare time than believing BS political stories from BS sources and telling everybody in the world about them, because they're just not true. But things like Amadeus's life or Gandhi's life, those are true things. And there's a lot to be gained and known from that. So, leave comments and suggestions.
I will say before I go, he is right, because you learn something new every day. Look at, as he said, Amadeus, Gandhi. Look at Nixon. Look at JFK. They did movies about
If you really
them.
look at the life of Nixon, he was not that bad of a president. He gets such a bad rap because of Watergate, but he actually did so much more that it should have been looked at before Watergate. A lot of people say he's the one who took us into Vietnam. No, he isn't. A lot of people said, well, why didn't he get us out of Vietnam? Yes, he did. Of course, it didn't appear until Ford took over, but he was the one who pulled the strings to make it in. So, to give him the blame and say he was such a bad president is just kind of wrong.
I would like to share before we go.
There were worse presidents. Nixon was actually maybe one of our best.
This book here talks about everything that happened. I finished it twice already. It's called The Ends of Power. Yes, I know. Some people say you have to be sophisticated. That's the word. This was by his chief of staff, and it talks about all the things in Watergate and why Watergate happened, etc., from the chief of staff's point of view. So you got to look at all the point of view before making your own judgment. And
exactly. And so many just make assumptions in Nixon. He was hated at the time. But you know what? Clinton was hated when he was president. Bush was hated when he was president. Bush Sr. was hated when he was president. Heck, I knew people who hated Reagan when Reagan was a president. Every single president that I've known in my life has been hated by the people at the time that he's president. And they've all talked bad about him, but after they end up out of office, people tend to reflect and say, you know, he wasn't that bad. It usually takes some time.
Well, look at, before we go, look at people. People love JFK.
Yeah, JFK actually didn't do much at all.
What about your dad? He loves Truman. Truman was the man.
JFK was frankly loved because he was young, he was attractive, and then he died. And if you look at his policies and what he did as a president, he really didn't do much of anything. Okay, yes, he died in office. But
so did FDR, but everyone hates FDR.
He still had plenty of time to do things, and he didn't have anything in his agenda or anything that he did do that was truly significant. Lyndon Baines Johnson did a lot more in his short time.
Yes, but LBJ also was the type that, even though he didn't like blacks, for example, he's a give him rights.
In fact, he was a racist person, but he even said, I can't have my own viewpoints destroy this country.
That's what Truman said. Truman basically got the balls and said, I don't like seeing black people thrown out of the back of army trucks. Let's do something. So he enacted the Bill of Rights for the minority. And your dad says Truman was great, but your dad hates FDR because of Social Security.
So, always make sure that you try to teach your kids something important.
Every day, even if it's something small.
And always try to teach yourself something important. Heck, you could teach yourself something important while teaching your kids something important by picking up a real-life story or documentary or something on somebody's life or how life used to be for a certain group of people, and sit down and watch it with your family. You will all learn.
Yes, so please add and subscribe if you like. Please post comments in the box if you like. And please add us as a friend
and
if you
suggestions.
like. And suggestions. Thank you. And look for next week's video. Almost close to Christmas.